begin by welcoming everyone to the Monday, March 7th, 2022 Select Board meeting. This is our organizational meeting, so we're going to need to elect a chair and vice chair.
Record, Terry.
And I'm going to hit record. Like I always.
Thank you.
There's a voice in my head.
Recording in progress.
Start with the pledge.
Yeah.
And let's do that. Pledge. We're going to start with a pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I'm going to start out with the organizational part of our meeting. One of us just has to open the floor to nominations for chair, and if you won't mind, I'll do that. And I'd like to use my very first motion in almost 3 years now to nominate my good friend and a very dedicated select board member for the last 2 years, Jonathan Giroux, to be our chair for this year.
Second that.
Okay, anybody have any other nominations for chair? Okay, so we'll close the nominations for chair. All in favor of Jonathan Giroux being our chair for this year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So,
Can we still call you Jonathan sometimes, or?
no, Mr. Chair.
The honorable. You are now the honorable chair.
Do you need the gavel?
No, I inquired about it earlier today,
Okay.
so I know where it is if I need to take it out, but I will not take it out. Okay.
Works good too.
Yeah.
Makes a bigger hole in the table.
So now I'll take any nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Brian Delorier.
Second.
Remember, you can't second or make any motions now. So we have a second?
Yeah.
Thanks, Jack.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Brian? Vice chair?
You can still call me Brian, it's fine.
We'll swap seats. Next meeting we'll swap seats, so you'll be right here.
It doesn't matter, I'll get here.
Okay, so we need to sign the rules of procedure, right, Karen?
Yep.
This is here, don't forget to sign it before we leave. It was in the packets.
You have to make a motion to adopt them.
Yeah, well, I had a few things, Jonathan, just, and maybe they're just grammatical corrections, but,
Yep.
Section 3.1, the very last sentence of 3.1, if a vacancy occurs in the office of chair, the members of the select board at their next regular meeting, they're just missing, the last part.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't have.
So just, yeah, it was that, and then I think I just had one more. Section 9.3, just missing a word. An enacted policy is a binding statement.
Mm-hmm. I also had something on that page. Under town manager, section 11.2 talks about, rules of procedure, where was it? Oh, grants. I can sign for grants, but grants now require, coming to the select board. So I wanted to add language in there
Okay.
that complies with our policy. But I just found that tonight, so I think we probably wanna revise this and bring it to the next meeting. You can adopt it now, just so that we have the, 5
Yeah.
minutes for general public comment and 3 minutes for rebuttals and stuff like that.
So whoever makes the motion, you need to say.
I'll make a
amended.
motion, we adopt the rules of procedures as amended, as well as the attachment A, the select board meeting schedule, 2022 to 2023, in accordance with 1 VSA subsection 312, C1.
Second.
Second.
Ty goes for the new guy.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that. And then the minutes, or no, we're going to warrants next. So we'll start the warrants. I have the general fund warrants dated March 3rd, 2022 in the amount of $56,764.54. Just some basic stuff on here, fuel and the electricity, life insurance, pretty much stuff. If anybody would like to make a motion to approve that warrant.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And so we can move on to the payroll warrants. Jack, you have those? So typically what we do
You
is
want
we
me to
just,
do it for you?
you wanna do it?
I'll get
Okay.
you. Okay, so,
There you go.
got two sets of payroll warrants. First is dated February 25th, 2022, in the amount of $41,205.08. That includes a lot of agency checks, retirements and whatnot. A more normal looking payroll warrant dated March 4th, 2022, in the amount of $23,047.31. Includes some overtime for DPW and whatnot, but that's more of a normal number. So I'll make a motion, we approve both payroll warrants as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we're gonna move,
Seconded that,
Jack,
we're gonna move on to the infrastructure development warrant, and we have a stormwater warrant
And Stonehouse.
and Stonehouse warrant.
Alright, so first one is the infrastructure development warrant in the amount, dated March 7th, 2022. The amount of $11,192.23. Looks like about half of it is Superior Communications. Another large chunk is Rush Meadows. I think it's construction.
that one is
Get
the
that?
now required, testing company, basically. They have to commission
Yep.
new commercial projects.
Yeah, and and then the other one was Granger. And all of them are for the town hall cost center. So I make a motion that we accept the warrant in that amount of a little over $11,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Next one is, oops, looks like that goes with this. Next one is a stormwater utility warrant in the amount of $375. One to Bergeron, Paradis, and Fitzpatrick for $275. The other one for the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources. And it looks like it's all dealing with Tanglewood neighborhood. At least the permit is. And I would make a motion that we accept that amount. Again, it's March 7th, 2022, stormwater utility warrant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright. Alright, last one is Stonehouse warrant, also dated March 7th, 2022, in the amount of $3,601.73. And all of it is due to Lowe's. It's all various expenses, screws, and other materials that soon are used all over at the Stonehouse. So again, I would make a motion that we accept that warrant for the Stonehouse.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moving right along here, we'll go to the minutes. I have the minutes of February 28th and the minutes of the meeting on February 23rd. Any edits, changes?
I didn't see it.
Move it approved as presented.
Second?
I'll second that.
You gotta, I think the.
I'll
pass
second
them,
it.
yeah.
I'll second
The
it,
three
yeah,
of
just
us
to
will
make
have to
sure.
vote since you guys weren't seated yet.
Okay.
But
Oh, there you go.
you'll have to
Yeah,
vote
yeah,
to
yeah,
form
yeah.
a quorum.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect.
Okay, public comment. I see we have a few people in the audience tonight. So as usual in public comment, we give everybody a 5-minute window to speak. Do you have anything else to add to that, Gary?
No, I do actually. I will keep
Mhm.
track of the time just so
Okay.
that we can make sure we get to everyone.
Okay.
And also know that, well, one thing that we used to say is if you have comment on something we're going to talk about in the agenda, it'd be great if you could wait till the select board gets to that part of the agenda. If this is unrelated to that and you just want something you need to share, go for it, but 5 minutes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. And I'm assuming if someone wants to say something that is on the agenda, like near the end, they're still okay to do it now. Is that okay? If maybe they can't be around for
Yeah.
2 hours.
Oh, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
okay, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yes.
Sure, okay.
Yep. And I guess I will clarify one other thing, that the assessor item on our agenda was intended to be a discussion point about appointing our assessor for a 3-year term. It wasn't a discussion about the E911 address changes. So if somebody would like to speak on that, they can do it now, or I guess they can do it at that point. I just wanted to clarify that we did not put that on the agenda to primarily talk about the E911 changes.
Okay, so
So just raise your hand or unmute, and Jonathan will call on you if you'd like to speak now.
go ahead, Tim. Oh, sorry. Guess Armin, if you have something to say, just state your name, please.
Can you hear me?
Let me turn it
Okay.
up.
My name's Armand Messier. I live at 870 McQuam Shore Road, soon to be 5996. And I want to thank you for the opportunity in 5 minutes to speak. I was very surprised to get the letter in the mail this past weekend for the 911 changes. I've only seen that in the town reports in one paragraph, so it's very surprising. And I think I'm reacting right now by even speaking because I think the town has done a poor job of being proactive on this issue. I'm not here to offer complete complaints. I'm really actually here to ask the town to really consider about moving forward, and especially when they go with other roads, as far as how they proceed in procedure. I think there's a lot of great things happening in St. Albans Town, low tax rate, great buildings, a responsive select board, great employees. And but I sort of felt like I was sideswiped by the 911 address change. And I'll say that, being proactive, I think it's, it would have been helpful if we had known about this. And I know it's important to be active in government and to go look at minutes and so forth, but I looked at every select board, planning, DRB, commission minutes in the last year, and nothing was brought up except for the February 7th meeting of select board last month, where people talked about the issues they're still having after 5 years of renumbering up at Franklin Park West. So my suggestions moving forward here is that, we just need to know, like, if the town had sent a letter 6 months ago, I think that would have been helpful. Just put it out there and say, hey, in spring and March, we're going to be looking at renumbering McQuam. Just keep it on the radar. We'll have more information and we'll be setting your new address. Have a town meeting, okay, a special meeting, invite people who've gone through renumbering and say, okay, give us some, what worked, what didn't work, get feedback, do surveys. There's all sorts of ways to be proactive as a town so we better understand, we're more prepared. There's costs involved with renumbering. Are there funds from the town? Is there a grant? Can we use the 1% tax money? What are some ideas? Because, I can go out, write $50, $50 check for new checks for the address, but someone may not have that. So we have to think about all people in town when they go through renumbering. Maybe there's some way to allot $25 per address, and that's just a nice gesture from the town select board to move through this. So just wrapping up, I think there's going to be a lot of issues with this, especially for GPS, Google. I know the ordinance calls for, the streets addressing ordinance calls for improved delivery, but it's really been a nightmare for the people up on Sunrise Drive in Franklin Park West. Brigham Road has some issues too. People are 2 years out and they're still not getting packages. Is it business friendly? What are our businesses going to do if they can't be found in Google? So there's some things to think about on this as you're moving forward. I just hope there's more communication in the future. And again, I want to be active. I want to be helpful. And I'm just coming to you tonight to offer some of those views. So thank you for the public comment.
Thank you, Armin. So I believe we're working on a response, right? That we're going to be coming out here within the next few days to answer some of your questions, Armin. I did, and I don't want to put the blame on COVID, but I believe we were working on this back just pre-COVID a little bit, I believe, and then even in 2019 we were working on it a little bit. So like I said, the town manager is working on a response, and we'll have something out for you here shortly.
Well, part of what we were doing in response to some of these questions is Corey is working on a frequently asked questions. We're going to put some answers to those on our website. There are a few neighborhoods that have gone through this already, so your point is well taken. We can share what's worked and what hasn't. I mean, I actually had my address changed as well, so I also did learn the process, and I learned what worked and what didn't, so. Yeah, so frequently asked questions is the most noticeable thing you'll see on our website, and right now we don't have any funds to mitigate those costs, but we certainly are working to find options for you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Does anyone else, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Anybody else like to make a public comment?
Oh, just a minute, somebody's trying to get in, and I think that's a familiar name.
Hello, David and Louise Barrow. Hi, David. How are you? Would you like to make a public comment?
David, you're muted. Just space bar.
There we go. There we go. A little slow.
That's okay.
Thank you.
We're
No,
at-
I'm just listening. I'm just listening to the, just signed on to the renumbering for the McQuam Shore.
Okay, so this is the public comment section where this would be your chances. The McQuam Shore renumbering is not necessarily on the agenda for tonight, but now would be your time if you want to make a comment about that McQuam Shore renumbering. Armin just
Yeah,
made a comment.
We previously lived, 12 years ago on Lake Street. I know they renumbered then. I'm not sure if they renumbered McQuam Shore also at that time.
I'm not for sure.
I don't remember
No,
that.
no, they did not.
They did not. Okay, so this would be the first time that's being done in 12 years, I'm guessing, or maybe ever.
I believe so, yes.
Correct, and it would probably be the only time because we're complying with national and state laws.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the biggest issue that brought this to a head now and maybe made McQuam one of the first roads on the list to get started with this year is that there's building lots for sale, and there's literally no way for us to assign them an E911 number because there are none available. This is something that I read from the assistant assessor today.
Right.
So that was one thing that I learned today that I thought was interesting.
Well,
So if
because
you'd
we
like-
have a lot across the street that has no building on it, and I was told I can't have that assigned a 911 number until there's a driveway put in.
Right.
That's true of everyone, actually.
Okay, so a simple question is, I don't understand maybe the way the 911 works, but I don't understand why they can't just assign, like with GPS, they can't call my house still 702 McQuam Shore and give it a location. Maybe I don't understand the technical background to it, but it would seem in this day and age that everything has a GPS coordinate and it could just be assigned that way, but maybe not. And that would leave everybody with the same numbers that we have, because to be honest, it's going to be a nightmare to go through my DMV, my passport, everything else, kids, student loans, everything that FAFSA, all that stuff that shows my address will have to be redone. So if there's any possible way, it would alleviate that renumbering.
So the answer, the quick answer to that is that no, if there was any way we could avoid this, we would have done that already, because it's a very specific formula that E911 requires, and it doesn't tie in directly with just a simple GPS. We can send you the whole ordinance, but at this point, it can't be avoided at this juncture. We are going to put frequently asked questions online. It's like, hey, what's worked and what hasn't when somebody has to change their address. I will say I had to do it myself, and I was surprised at how well the post office does try to work with you. So.
And maybe Carrie or someone else can correct me if I'm wrong here, but my understanding of it is, right, like I think of comparing the United States and Canada, and I'm thinking about the interstate, right? Like you drive up our interstate and it's like we're exit 19, the next one's 20, the next one's 21 after that. But in Canada, you drive and the exits are numbered by what kilometer mile they are from the beginning. So they're not numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. They're numbered 7 and then 13, something like that. And my understanding is the E911 is something similar
It
to
is,
that,
yep.
correct? Where it's not the first lot, the second lot,
Correct.
but how far you are from the beginning of the road,
Right.
correct? So
Mhm.
I think that's
Right.
I think that's where it comes from. And David, I would rather not make any changes if we didn't have to, but this is one of those things where I think it's the it's coming down from up top. Now I wish that
Right.
it looks like, because I just got on the board last year, I hadn't heard anything about E911 either. And then reading the history, there was a lot about it up until COVID started. It looks like, and it got put on hold, and it looks like the process is restarting. That's kind of my understanding of it.
Yeah, the from what Carrie sent out earlier today,
Right.
that's the way it looks. But like I said, so is the facts on the website now?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
So
yet.
we're gonna be. Go ahead.
No, that's
so
fine.
We're gonna be
planning-
putting some facts on the website, and David, I think Corey can probably email you that all the facts about it and everything on
Yeah.
what's going on.
We'll have a frequently asked questions page
Sorry.
on our website, and Corey has your email. He'll send it to you directly, Mr. Barrow.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, 30 days is a little short notice, but
It's not a firm number. I mean, if it helps, I can talk to the assessor about, giving you an additional 30 days.
I think in the email, the post office is gonna maintain the old address in duplicity for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So there is some time. I'm on McQuam Shore Road myself, so I gotta go through it too.
And I found they are still doing it, and I changed my address 2 years ago. I still get mail at the old address.
Worth noting that 3 years ago when we explored doing the McQuam Shore, I don't think Swanton Town was in a
Right.
place where they could do that with us, and now we're doing it all in one shot. So intermunicipal cooperation worth pointing out every time. So thank you to our friends in Swanton.
Just so everyone knows too, on the highway, the signs are changing too. That's going by mileage.
Oh, I don't think I knew that. They're changing our exit numbers?
Yeah, to mile markers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they wanna get federal funds.
Yeah.
Like they do in Canada.
Interesting. All right. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
And they're also keeping both like signs up, like they're saying
Yeah.
mileage sign, and they're saying trying to keep people exits.
Yeah, and underneath they have the new mileage markers.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
Say one more thing, it'd be a sure heck of a time if we could get St. Albans addresses. That would change a lot of stuff. I mean, I would fully support change because it's so confusing trying to explain to people that you live in St. Albans, but you got a Swanton address. I mean, but that's like in different parts of town have that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's unfortunately though, the post office doesn't really, they don't care what we think.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked in Georgia and they have 3 or 4 different zip codes, and the post office just,
St.
I'm
Albans has 5.
they don't care. I've tried.
I'm an 054882 Armin, and it just
I'm
it's,
5481.
it's just because we're serviced out of the
Professional.
Swanton post office. It's all our carriers and our sorting's all done from there. It's all route related.
That's hard. That's a hard room.
Okay.
All right. Are we
Uh,
good for now?
Anybody else want to make a public comment? Seeing none, I guess we'll move on to the assessor appointment.
Make that one quick.
Would anybody like to make a motion to reappoint Bill Hinman as the town assessor for a term of 3 years ending March 7th, 2025?
So
Second? Oh, anybody got a second?
get it.
I'll get used to it. Maybe by then.
Yeah, second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so why do we, I mean, where does this come from? We don't have our own
Listers.
listers anymore.
Correct.
Right.
So how do we get this guy?
You mean why do we have to appoint an assessor?
Yeah, but where does he come from? Is he a town resident?
No.
Oh,
so
no,
he's
when go ahead.
he services I think Williston in Georgia and maybe another town, and he works for us part time. Molly's our employee and works for us full time as an assistant assessor, but he's got all the applicable licenses for commercial, maybe even industrial and residential appraisal. He maintains the Williston and Georgia grand list along with ours, and we pay him I think by that by the hour.
But is he like the only one?
Yeah, it'd be him. Yeah, and he's. It's the licenses that you fall back on having there only be one person. He's
No,
good.
but I mean, is there a bunch of them you can pick from, or?
I think so. Yeah, but there's only so many companies I think that do it. He's his own private business that subcontracts out with different towns.
There aren't a ton of people that do that. He's been here about 8 years, so he's pretty familiar with our town and every part of it.
It's just a lot. The next 3 years, we're definitely, if the CLA keeps moving, going through a reappraisal. And now that he's been through most of the grant list and overseen a lot of updates as different permits have been processed and different things in the industrial park have expanded, I get that it might be worth, bidding that amount of money out or putting it out as an RFP, but it might be, in this instance, in the best interest of the town just to keep him on, given that we're staring down the barrel of a reappraisal.
You do make a good point, Brendan, that, because I think it would fall under our purchasing policy that we
Right.
put it out to bid or RFQ it, right, maybe?
If this was a
like-
contracted service, he's an employee of the town though, so it's not like we're just hiring someone to do new maps.
It's a
and
part-time job description, and he's just got, I think you pay him directly. If you look at the payroll warrants, it's not
He's
like
a W-2?
Yeah, you can look at the payroll warrant. I think he's on there.
Well, I mean, if you wanna discuss the specifics of any employee, I think I'd prefer
No,
to start
just-
it in executive session, but.
Well, it's just
He's an employee,
mechanism.
not a contracted service,
Oh.
so
Yeah.
the contracted service rebidding thing is something, yes, we do with a lot of services, like,
Right, but he's an employee.
That's- yeah, it's
effectively, and
different.
He's not, okay.
We got a lot of G's.
A part-time employee.
correct,
Part-
yes.
Yes. it's-
With a
Yeah,
term.
so he's a
With a term.
part-time, no bennies.
Well, it's like zoning, we have to put our zoning administrator
Yeah.
every couple of years, even if she's an employee or.
W-2 wage though.
Yep.
Does that answer your question?
Kind
Kinda.
Kind of.
of. Roll on.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I think everybody said aye.
Yeah,
Okay, moving on to the town manager's report. Carrie?
perfect. So the first thing on here, and John and, Alan are here, is, St. Albans Town Educational Center, largely, I think due to COVID, decided last summer they were gonna do a 4-week summer camp. It was pretty successful. I think the teachers were worn out, but the kids loved it, I heard. And so they have asked to do it again, but they'd like to pull it back to 2 weeks, not 4 weeks. But the fee, it's a school, of course, I know they have some funds for the program, but is asking if, what we'd like to charge. They didn't actually outright ask for a discount, but last year we gave them that discount, like I indicated in your emails that.
First year.
Yeah, and I asked John, he didn't think there was any huge problems with them last year. I mean, we certainly were aware that they were in the park. You could hear the noise and see the traffic, which was kind of great considering COVID, but, just wondering how you feel about it. The select board is the body that can waive park and rec fees. So I'm asking you if you'd like to do that. If not, full disclosure, they didn't say it wasn't gonna happen that way, they just asked what the fee was.
So no issues like with other events during when this goes on, we haven't had any problems?
No, I mean, what John highlighted was that, we just need to remind them that they do not, for that park reservation fee, they do not get every amenity in the park.
Okay.
You know, they don't get priority for that, they can use it, but we don't close the whole park so that they can use it, we just allow them to have like the picnic pavilion and things
Okay.
like that.
Sounds good.
Does that cover it, John?
Yes. Yes, we didn't have any problems with them last year, just, there was some other schools that come every year and they just come for like a day visit. So there was a little bit of confusion over like who was using the volleyball courts and, but everybody figured it out. It wasn't that big of a deal, so.
So I'll make a motion that
Thank you.
Thanks, John. I'll make a motion that we waive 50% of the park rental fee for State Tech's 2022 summer camp program for the big park.
Anybody want a second?
I'll say.
Any discussion?
What's the fee?
$4,000. We'd be cutting it down to $2,000.
Well, and if they only do it for 2 weeks, then it's 2,000, so
So
we're gonna
cut it to
waive
one.
1,000.
Right,
Okay.
it was, last year was 4, we cut to 2,
Right.
this year it's half time, sorry, missed that detail.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Very nice. So the next item has a lot to do with the one we just discussed, Park and Rec sponsorships. So last year, Alan and John worked quite a bit on getting sponsorships for many of our summer programs. We need to decide where we want some of those extra funds to go so that when they're reaching out to people to sponsor again, they know where any proceeds are going. We generally, obviously, we're a nonprofit, try to charge what we need to get by, but there are some revenues out of some of those events. Not a ton, to be fair, but they did really well with sponsorships. So do you want it to go towards the Stone House? Do you want there to be a longer, more in-depth discussion about different places it could go? That's really what I'm trying to get.
I'll take anybody's input at this point. I mean, I think last year we solely did it for the Stone House, right?
That is correct.
Right.
Is there anything foreseeable that you think it should go to, you know, it should probably stay in the parks, right?
Well, I'll clarify, like, Alan, didn't the Christmas thing, part of the funds there went to Operation Happiness?
Yeah, so when
That one
John
was
and I
different.
reached out to the sponsors, it was, a lot of them liked the park and they really liked the historic stone house, so the sponsorship money was to do the event. So like Bocan and Handy really wanted their money to be spent on the car show. People's Trust used to do the running of the bells. We did the Holly Jolly Jamboree. So they wanted to have their money, some of the proceeds to go towards Operation Happiness to keep the money in the community, which helps a lot of the families in Franklin County. So each sponsorship kind of puts their name to an event, but all the money goes to all of the events because they get advertised at all their events. But they really like the idea of money going into the Stone House to renovate it. So it's keeping all the money in the park, doing the events in the park.
So the sponsorship program that Alan and John presented us with, they're proposing to have a separate bank account. All sponsorship and event money and proceeds, I would guess, go into that account. Expenditures for events come out of that account. Donations, like if the select board wanted to approve a donation to Operation Happiness, we could pull that money out of that account as their suggestion. At the end of each season, we could decide on a percentage of earnings to be transferred into the Stonehouse account to help fund upgrades, and that's kind of their suggestion to give us that transparency that we were looking for last year, to not have funds commingled. Anna, do you think that's probably the best practice? You think that's the way we should go, with a whole separate bank account, or do you think we should run it in the general fund and track it in our expense reports?
Notoriously, what happened last year is everybody that sponsored any event, it was on the pamphlet that the money would go to the Stone House. So any expenses came out of the Stone House. I just think if a separate bank account, I mean, that's fine, but if you're sponsoring the Stone House, keep the money in the Stone House account.
And it's clean enough for you to do it at the end of the year, like they were talking
Oh,
about?
yes, perfectly. You can run a general ledger report of expenses and revenues. But when you got sponsors going to different accounts, it's just confusing to track it.
So, Mr. Chair, if I'm reading the pamphlet, the advertising pamphlet correctly, it doesn't say, like it may have last year, that it's going specifically to the Stonehouse. It just lists the events that it'll go to support advertising. So it kind of leaves us open to maybe make a donation to an Operation Happiness if we wanted to, or decide that, maybe you get to the end of the year and, there's $20,000 left over after we paid all the expenses for all those events, and we could decide, we're going to do 10% to Operation Happiness and the remaining $18,000 to the Stonehouse. It sounds like that would all jive with the way they've got the The trifold all figured out if I'm reading it right.
I'm not sure where this pamphlet came from in my handbook, but there was many pamphlets for different events that sponsored different things.
Right, so we're just trying to create a consistent message this year, because it does say Stonehouse in here in a couple places before we start advertising.
Yeah, it does say, Brendan, it looks like on the last line of,
Very last line.
yeah, St. Albans Town annual events, top left where Mill River Brewing is, it does say proceeds will be going to renovate our stone house.
Okay.
But that's just one event, Brian.
Okay, that's what I was
Right.
gonna say, that could be just that one event.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one event.
Yeah, okay.
Can I say something?
Yes.
So when we got the sponsors last year, we made everybody aware that it went towards our community events. So every bit of money that they were donating went to our community events. And then anything that was made off of those events went towards our stone house. So just to clear it up.
So you use this money as startup funding, and
Essentially.
and then whatever your profit was, you put it back into the Stonehouse fund. So that we could still do that. And now that you're proposing a separate bank account, it'll be a lot easier for us to track. Perfect.
And also where I think it was Alan who wrote that, the other piece that you were reading off. I think the intent of that to decide how much of it went to the stone house, the other percent of that money would go towards startup fees. Like some of our events start in, well, we have one coming right up here in June. So you would have a little bit of money before, to get your, we have another one, June, July, we have the great race. So you would have a little bit of startup money, so it wouldn't burden the taxpayer as much.
So you want to start saving up a fund balance out of proceeds every year, so we don't have to maybe budget any property tax money to do that function? Is that
I believe that's the idea, yes.
okay? That works for me. I'd make a motion to approve the sponsorship program
Hold on,
for
I think,
2022.
Al, do you want to make a quick comment?
You're muted, Al.
Yeah, yes.
Go ahead,
Can
Al.
you hear me?
Yep.
My suggestion is that you talk to your auditor first. You're entering into a complicated territory between the chart of accounts and individual authorities to draw checks out. So I would suggest that you talk to your auditor and get his or her feedback on this issue before you move forward.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Yep.
We just signed our engagement.
So I have a question. How many different checkbooks does the town run?
Good question.
Let's see.
Probably, I will give you a treasurer's report at the next meeting. Probably there's 8. There's the general fund, industrial park. Yeah, there's probably 8.
North End Sewer, is that a separate one too?
Route 7
What's
North,
that?
Route 7 North.
Impact fees. You got
Yep.
the
Stone house, yeah.
Which you have to keep separate by statute.
Okay. I was just wondering if it can be just handled in the general ledger with
right.
going through the existing.
You could do that with different cost centers, but the fear along the way from a lot of clerks is money spent and you can't get it back.
You just have like a revenue on that revenue report and expense on the expense side.
Yeah.
I think concern Ann and I had this year with the events, a lot of sponsorship money is earned, let's call it February, March. The events don't take place till the next fiscal year. So if we run it through the general fund, it looks like a huge expense without the revenue.
Exactly.
And then the concern the select board had last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just gonna paraphrase, was that we were using Stonehouse funds to pay for bands, even though we said that fund was only gonna go to fixing the Stonehouse, even though
It just didn't look right.
right,
No.
even though everyone kind of knew it was
Yep.
it was good, but it just when Anna and I tried to do the accounting on last year, we had to run 4 different reports from 2 different funds over 2 fiscal years. So I think just trying to streamline that so it's more transparent.
Might be the need for the 9th checkbook to do it as clean as possible.
Maybe.
Right, but I also, to Al's point, want to talk to the auditors. You can't carry over in most departments in
Unless it's
town,
under Public Works, right?
unless it's under Public Works.
Yeah, you can't. That's again, the only statute, as far as carrying over money is Public Works.
But work it out.
So
Still-
I guess to move forward here, I guess we'll check with the auditors,
We-
right?
We actually don't have auditors, but we have people that, audit
Well,
for
audit,
us,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So, and then we'll come back and
Yes,
make adjustments.
we're gonna have to do it soon, though, these guys wanna.
Yeah, it looks like a good idea.
Well, you gotta start early, right? We're 1st of March now, before you know it, we'll be cutting grass, so.
Is there any way that we could maybe approve something and then approve of how we're gonna deposit, because all the checks are gonna be made out to the town of St. Albans regardless. So it might be a good idea to give them approval on everything but how we,
Make a motion based on
so.
auditor finding.
Well, we're, the back room accounting stuff is not something
So
they care about.
I'd make a motion to approve the 2022 sponsorship program, everything but the accounting, pending auditor review.
Am I a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
So how long is this auditor thing gonna take? Shouldn't take that long, huh?
Shouldn't take.
It shouldn't take long at all.
Nope, couple
Email
weeks,
the-
but.
Like a Chris Goulette at AM Peisch and people.
Correct.
Should know by next meeting, you're saying, right? Is that
Hopefully, or.
It's still a month away, right? Or a ways away.
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Yeah. Every other Monday.
First and third Monday.
It starts coming fast.
Okay. Well, no, I thought we only had, I read something about this is the only meeting in March, but.
No, that, we do have one on the 21st
Okay.
of March. We have
Yeah.
one on usually the 1st and 3rd
Yeah, I knew
Monday.
that, but.
It was not on the agenda, but we actually do have
Okay.
one. Yep.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so last one's the policy and ordinance master list review.
Mhm.
All right, so the next item was, there was a request to just look at the full list of all our policies and ordinances. I think a couple people had asked to just get a flavor for how many you wanna review. If you wanna review them all, then we'll just have to bite off 2 or 3 every single meeting, and we can send them to you in their full form, or you can print everything you have off and you'll get a telephone book.
So I was thinking, probably like every, 2 a meeting, we can review it, put it in our packet, right? We
Mhm.
can review it, and then we can discuss it in an open meeting, what everybody's thoughts were, if we need to make some updates or
Yep.
changes or.
I mean,
Some
there
of them
could
might
be
a
some
little
that
thick,
need
you only
nothing.
wanna do one.
Yeah, like if you notice one has 60 pages, like please don't send a
Two.
60 and a 40, like, please.
You wanna start with the.
I think we can be more thorough if we just,
Mhm.
couple at a time.
So I was wondering that too, if we should start and go right down the list, or should we pick some that may be more seasonally appropriate or more, just more urgent?
Well, then
in
when you
general?
do the ordinances,
Mhm.
they're on their own approval schedule, and there's appeal periods and the whole 9 yards, so we'll have to warn it properly and make sure that so policies are a lot easier because we can amend them just on
Those without
motions,
that.
but ordinances, you have to follow the explicit rules. And
So should we do like a ordinance and a policy, or just do policy?
it's almost like one meeting you do policies, the next ones you do ordinances. That way you keep the same flow.
Yeah.
That way you don't have them on 2 weeks staggered. I
Yeah.
mean, I read the capital program and budget policy. I had a few people in the community call me about it the last 3 weeks. That would, if I get to vote on which one we started with for policies, that would be it. If that could be the first one.
I'm on board to start with that, capital.
The capital budget, capital program and budget policy.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of talk about how like the capital plan played into collecting impact fees
Mhm.
in the community, so maybe we could do like,
Those two together.
Mhm.
yeah, just, and I know we just said we weren't gonna do an ordinance and a policy together, and we were gonna try to do 2 and 2, but just for this first
Well,
one.
they do kind of
Yeah.
correlate or whatever.
Well, and it's a concern out in the community
Yeah.
that people are talking
I've heard
about.
it from more than one person, so.
So
Yeah.
you wanna do the capital program and budget policy,
Yeah,
and
then
what else?
the impact fee ordinance, which we just,
We just did it, but that's all right. You can, Whoever's not muted, could you please mute, please? So I don't hear the background news. So capital program,
I saw the Britain's greatest soldier is the I think we're
You can do it
hacked.
there, Carrie, just go up a
Just,
little bit further.
you had to
I
go up a
think.
little.
Yeah.
I think we're hacked.
It's the Russians.
You don't wanna mute anyone.
no, I guess I won't do that.
Yeah, just, yeah,
They're on to
a
us.
little over. Yeah,
Right there you go.
perfect.
So capital program, we'll do it, impact fee. You can talk about them both at a meeting, you can even approve them both at a meeting, but the ordinances take 45-day appeal period, and then they're effective 60 days after they're approved. So.
Yeah, the impact fee, I think that one's gonna be tough, cause the impact fee ordinance is one of the most recent ones we've gone through, and that required studies, and that was Ned Connell's. That was a big lift for him to get that through, so I think that one probably has the best shot of being an ordinance that we need to update the least. Depending how we feel about how it interacts with the capital.
You're right, right.
Well,
So-
there may not be anything wrong with.
Right,
once
so we
Yeah,
might
maybe-
not even,
maybe
it's
Maybe a
right.
good one to start with.
Start
Yeah,
with
that's
them.
why I'm thinking, that way
You
you
can
don't
take
even
a
have to
win.
worry about
You'll be like,
appealing
good,
it.
done.
Yeah, just start with them.
I'm gonna have them number them too, I'd
Sounds good.
rather need this stuff
Just
identified.
because it's out in the community and people are concerned about it, so it'd be
Yeah.
nice if we could get that one.
You're concerned about the impact fee ordinance?
Capital programming interacts with the ability to collect impact fees per Title 24. There's a question of whether or not, if you don't follow that capital plan program budget policy and follow it by updating it every year for the whole organization, if that somehow through Title 24 impacts your ability to collect impact fees, which I don't think it does.
Mm.
I've done some pretty solid,
No.
I went through Title 24, everything applicable to impact fees, and I think we're on solid ground, but
I think they're confusing the fact that, because we use the same words over and over again, you can annually, department heads and myself come to the select board for capital expenditures annually with the budget, and then there's separately that 5-year planning tool.
we can go through
Yeah.
and
So
figure out.
there, now the capital budget that
Yes.
has been around since day
Yep.
one of the first impact fee.
Dr. Isley.
Dean
Phyllis,
Richardson,
yeah.
That's still being followed. So your departments are coming in with their 5 or 10-year.
Correct, it's 5, yep. That's the one Brendan's talking about that we were gonna look at. Well, you're looking at impact fee, but
And
capital
your
program policy.
sinking funds and all that business is part of that.
It is, it's listed in there, yes. More practically, though, we look at a different version of that once a year when we look at budgeting.
Mhm.
It's like the short version, like the executive summary of that long program.
Well, we'll figure it out next meeting exactly where we are with both
Okay.
of them.
Sounds like that's a good one to start with, though.
Yeah.
Yep.
No doubt.
And the first one on your list, you're already gonna look at, which is the rules of procedure. It's gonna be updated before.
Probably take us till November by the time we get through them all, but it'll be worth it.
Well, I
Be the
think
best-
there's some in there that, you know.
You'll
probably
read through
gets-
them and be,
You'll just
okay,
pass them on.
yeah.
Yeah, like one page.
This will be the best informed select board in a long time after we do this. Well, I'll have to stay around for a long time too.
Term
Got
limits.
5 people running for town agent.
You're gonna do a
5 people
Term
running for
limits.
town agent.
make a motion
There'll be
to amend
signs
the
and
town
everything.
charter to pass a term limit.
So that, we
You
good
want
on
too
that
many
one for
old
now?
guys on it.
Yeah.
Well, can you hear my wife seconding from Lower Newton?
Members are allowed. All right, so I'm gonna go to D on here, which this kind of segues, your comments segue to this. Spring board appointments it's the time of year to do that. You have our draft form that we use, the beginning of April. We don't have, thankfully, first time I think in a while, we don't have a lot of vacancies on our planning and DRB. But still, we have to appoint some of these positions every year. We're still looking for a few people on our police advisory committee.
Did we lose a few people? Or?
We've lost one so far. We have 1-year terms, but remember how we broke them, like the fire department rep, Jay, is asked to be reappointed. That comes from the fire department.
Which one did we lose?
Armin, who represented business owners, we need to find a business owner.
And they don't have to live in the town.
No.
You just have to represent a business, preferably one that interacts with police pretty often if possible.
Yeah.
Well,
Last year we struggled to get the 7 people for the police advisory committee.
You know.
So.
And I think we still need an alternate for DRB. No one member, thought Bruce was coming back, but I don't know if he really is, so we still have,
Thompson?
yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool. I like Bruce.
So we have a few boards that, you know, those are important, critical boards we have to keep staffed. And anyway, so
Mhm.
best word of mouth seems to be most effective when we're trying to get people to do that. And I'm also looking for an animal control officer. If you know anyone who would be willing to be a part-time animal control officer for us, I'd appreciate it.
Nominate Jack, no.
Well, I got a shotgun and a rifle.
Wow.
I don't think that's what they need.
Yeah, better.
Not sure that's the
Tighten up
message.
We're looking for a
It's
net.
It's not really the message we're going for.
That and a cattle prod.
With a smile.
Yeah.
Okay, Carrie, so that's.
Yeah, I guess we should move on.
Yeah, let's,
Don't get in
yeah.
trouble.
No. Okay, so that's it for the town manager's report.
It is.
Number 8 is the schedule. The next select board meetings are Monday, March 21st, and Monday, April 4th, and Monday, April 18th. They all start at 6:30 p.m.
Mhm.
So.
One thing I was gonna ask, you remember the planning meeting, maybe an organizational type thing in April?
Oh, yeah. So how does everybody feel about having a organizational meeting about looking, you know, we go over our projects that we plan for or what we want to see done.
Mhm.
You know, I think we revisit it just about every year. So
We used to do them with the planning committee. We
well,
did
I
it once
think
with the
we're
planning
gonna do
commission.
our own,
Yeah,
and then we can get together with the planning commission.
yeah,
also.
do that in like May.
Yeah. What do you think? Is that?
Yeah, I
Maybe
just
like
think,
April 4th we do ours, and then maybe like the first meeting in May we do a joint one with the planning commission. Maybe do some delegating. We might get into that list of policies and ordinances and want to break a few of them off and send them to the planning commission too if they need
That's
something
true.
to do.
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
So we get their feedback at that meeting and look them in the eye when we give them the homework.
Right. Let's keep them here till like 10:30 at night.
Yeah, every night. Every night.
Okay. So we'll do that April 4th. You doing that?
do you
Okay.
wanna start earlier before the select board meeting, so you can have just an informal, like, work session, just talk? You wanna do it at the meeting and
I mean,
talk about it for 15?
what do you think? Because I don't really want to be here till like.
I'd start at
10:30, like-
5:30. We used to start at 5:30 more, but we had a
Yeah,
member that had
well,
work
yeah, that's right.
commitments
So okay. So is anybody have an issue starting at 5:30?
for that one meeting.
Like for that one meeting,
Oh,
April
that's
4th
fine.
meeting?
For one
'Cause-
meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm good with that.
Sometimes when we do like budget work sessions, it's helpful
Mhm.
to come in
Yeah.
for an hour early, but not every meeting though. Yeah. It just we had a couple in the last month where we didn't get out of here till after 10 o'clock.
Well, 'cause you get, you know, past 9 o'clock, it's not very constructive. It doesn't seem
We
like.
used to go to 10 or 11, sometimes 12. And it went on after that.
Didn't your brother chair some Walmart related DRB hearings
No.
that went into like 2 in the morning?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
What? I just remember being a kid with was
And
it
you
you or
came-
Brant that had a picture on the front page of the Messenger at one of those hearings with just like this.
That probably was me.
That would be an illegal meeting. You gotta warn it.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
we're definitely gonna warn it, of course. All right, that's cool. Then, we'll put that on your calendar, for April 4th at 5:30.
Hey, my birthday.
Maybe. Okay, so moving on, other business. Anybody want to make a motion to go into executive session?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to enter executive session to discuss a contractual matter under Title I, Section 313A1 of Vermont statutes, and to consider evaluation and or possible discipline of a town employee.
Anybody got a second?
I'll second.
Second, if no one else has yet.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So I guess that's it. We'll take this on upstairs.